Hi, welcome to Hope in the Light of Suicide. We're both back in the studio.
We are both back in the
Welcome.
studio.
I'm Tammy White. I'm the founder of the Bobby White Foundation.
And I'm Bonni Snyder, the founder of nothing. No, I should stop. I'm Bonni Snyder, your co-host.
My co-host, come on. Yeah, so we're back in the studio. We took last week off because we had a couple big events.
We did.
And I forget, recouping from these takes a little bit longer than what I remember.
You know, it is. It's very interesting. Like these last couple of weeks have been different, I guess. You know, because I sit back and it's like, you had a solo show when where was I? Somewhere. And then we were back in the studio together and it's like, okay, let's get the groove back. And then I did the solo show when you were quarantined, when you were out, and I was like, oh, and then we skip a week, and it's like, what are we doing today? You know, as I'm walking in, there were sometimes that I look at the synopsis for the day, and there are times like, oh, I'll figure it out when I get there. But yeah, this has been an extremely event-filled week for us.
Well, and it really kind of stretched for like almost a month because, we were preparing for Art for Hope, our annual fundraiser, and we didn't really get a good start to it like at the beginning of the year like we normally would because we didn't know what was going to happen with COVID still at that point. But everything was falling into place until 2.5 weeks before the event, and then I get COVID. One of my board members, who happens to be our producer's wife and our MC, she ends up with COVID at the same time. And so that's when I missed one show. And then the next show, I was still testing positive, so I Zoomed in. And my whole thing was like, as I was getting towards the end of that, and we were getting closer to Art for Hope, and reading, what you can and cannot do and everything. So I had to be negative 5 days prior to our event in order to be around people. And so it was getting closer and closer, and I'm like, oh, I got to test negative. So the Saturday morning before our Thursday event, I was still positive. Saturday night, I tested again, and I was negative, and I'm like, oh, come on, please, because I had to be negative Sunday. And so I tested Sunday morning, and I was negative.
Nice.
And I was like, oh, man, just wait till the last minute,
Down to the wire.
And I still didn't feel all that great the night of the event. It was just like everything was.
Yeah, but the interesting thing about it is even for you and Dylan both coming off of concurrent COVID diagnoses or COVID illnesses, I felt the event went off like it was.
Anybody that didn't know, I don't think knew. What had been happening behind the scenes.
Yeah. And it was like for me, I had. We had Art for Hope, and then the very next day I had to walk, and then there's.
And it was rainy and yucky both days.
Right, but oh my God, we'll talk.
We'll get into all that.
We'll get into that, but we forgot to thank our.
Well, we're getting there. We got to get back into
the groove.
The groove. So first, of course, we have to thank John and Rob and Area 52 Media Group. I still have a hard time with that. And actually, John, the night of the event, because we were talking to the hotel, the Hilton Garden Inn, which, they're always awesome for us where we have this event. And the screens at either end where we had our logo for the show on, but I didn't know how to do it, and the young girl Shira, she didn't know exactly. She kind of knew, but I think what happened is they had a power surge. But John came in and he's like, just find what you want to put up there on your laptop. So I did and downloaded it to his thing, and he went and he got everything all fixed. So right just before everybody started coming in, we had that up there.
Too.
And it worked out really, really great. So want to thank him and, of course, his wife, Delynn, for emceeing the event and doing all that. And again, like I said, the hotel was really great. The food was good. They were just so accommodating for our event. We were just so exhausted by the end of it. I just left everything, the artwork that wasn't sold, and John met me down at the hotel the next day, and we picked everything back up. And so we did pretty good. We had a lot of new people. I want to thank you for being one of our speakers. And
I was kind of voluntold.
Well, yeah. You didn't.
You're welcome, but I was voluntold.
Yeah, you didn't really have much of a choice when I mentioned it.
Yeah, you did.
But Rod Cunningham, who has been a guest on here, he was our keynote speaker, and he did great. And his wife is so lovely. And
she is.
She introduced him, and that was really great. And Dr. Ailes from PHSC was there. I just was like, oh, I was so happy to see him there.
And speaking of, for me, that event, and I'm going to think of all, any community event that we put on for whatever topic that we're highlighting, like the Art for Hope was for the foundation and for the suicide loss and whatnot. I'm always blown away, impressed, honored through all those other positive accolades, and when community partners come together, and then even like after the event, like promoting before the event, but then to hear the comments after the event, because I was on a teleconference yesterday, and Dr. Ailes, was on this teleconference, and he was talking about the different events, and he had brought up, he was like, give a shout out, to you and the foundation and whatnot, and how he was honored to be, a part of that. And he goes, it was just awesome. And then, actually, he's like, shout out to you, shout out the foundation, shout out to me. He's like, thanks for the invite. It was, beautiful. And, of course, he, gave a shout out to Rod for being the keynote. It's like, Rod, as always, you brought the house down. And then, of course, there was the event, so we'll talk about, the walk, but then there was another event this past Saturday in Tampa that I went to. That is another foundation focused on suicide, suicide loss. And it just about felt like, oh my God, I was, not that I forgot about it, but, good, say collaborative partner, but when you get these different organizations together that are focused on one thing, like representing Ian's Way today.
Well, and at our event we had Ian's Way was there, and of course ASAP was there, and we had a representative from the Pasco County Sheriff's Mental Health Unit, and she was so nice. I was going to bring her card so I could remember her name. I can't remember her name. I feel so bad. But anyways, I'll have it next week, and I sent her an email and thanked her, and sent one to Tony Roach and thanked her for, having her out, and hopefully they'll be able to participate again, next year. But yeah, getting the community partners together and to let people know that, come to these events, other organizations that, we're all trying to work together, to make things better in our community. And Kim and Deanna from Parks and Rec were there.
They were, absolutely.
And they have, going straight from this to the next couple months, there's a lot going on with them, and like October 1st we have ASAP, we have AFSP, American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. The Out of the Darkness Walk is October 1st here, and I think the following week it's in Pinellas. And then that week also for Parks and Rec, which I have all these flyers from there. We had mentioned it last year, and we were there for the Stomp Out Suicide for Parks and Rec. And so this year they're doing Stomp Out Suicide, the 5K walk run, again at, I think it was with the Withlacoochee River Park.
Yeah.
And but they're having like a whole week of things. So they have one strikeout suicide. They're having a bowling tournament. And then they're having, I love this one, they have, there's Strike the Stigma, and there's, I don't know if there's QR codes on there, but we'll have all this information both on all our Facebook pages, so you can get to them if you want to go. Kitten Yoga, and they're going to have kittens up for adoption.
Oh, nice.
And I was telling my neighbor about it, and she says, "Tammy, don't you go." And I'm like, I have to go. So we'll have, a lot of that information coming in. But it's, all that stuff's going to be available. I think I'm going to go ahead and get it on our website too, but it'll be on all our Facebook pages. So check out all our Facebook pages. We have the Bobby White Foundation Facebook page. We have the show, Hope and Light Suicide Facebook page, and we have Art for Hope Facebook page. Because what we're going to do throughout this year, I think, and we've been talking to some people that were involved in our event last week, with my regular job, I guess you'd say, in the art business, I have a ton of art, come across a bunch of art. So, and a lot of it is going to be sold to benefit the foundation. It's kind of what happens when you almost self-fund yourself, So throughout the year, and we don't have the details worked out, but you'll get the details as we get them, is have mini events, and probably for the most part it'll be online, and have like mini art auctions to focus and feature on, some of the artwork, and to raise funds for the foundation, maybe to raise funds to sponsor our show. We did get an anonymous, she wanted to be anonymous sponsor for today's show.
Oh, nice.
So I just wanted to shout out to her. If she sees this, she knows who it is, her and her husband. So, and that's what we really need to focus on a lot, is we need sponsors for the show. Our producer is awesome, but we need to help him out too. So we're really looking for sponsors for the show. So if you're interested, please reach out to us, and so we can see. And the thing is, and I just don't get it. Some of the people that we've known, that we've approached, their comments are, because it's the subject matter, oh, it's too dark. But if we talk about it more, it's not going to be that way. We need to be able to talk about it for so many reasons. And so, come and join us. Be a part of what we're trying to change the narrative for people.
It is. And I mean, I think for me, I look at things, I was having this conversation in this transitional week that I'm in. I tend to, and one of the things that, and I recognize this about myself, and as I was talking to this, this person, I was like, I'm very analytical. I said, I'm a little analytical. We're like, I was like, no, you can widen the fingers. I acknowledge that. When I hear people say the subject is too dark, my response back to them, often becomes one of good, or it's supposed to be.
Well, yeah, you can look at it that way, yeah.
No, I do look at it
Yeah.
that way. Just saying, I do look at it that way. But no, it's supposed to be dark. Like nobody, who has either struggled with a loss or have been, they lost survivor, has all, sat back and celebrated. Woo woo.
Oh, well, no, yeah.
You're like, no. I mean, no. And so when you look at it, it's like, okay, you know what? It is and I hate, and I think verbiage and how things are phrased are extremely important. So when people says, well, it's a dark subject, I'd be like, yes, it is. However, I wouldn't say dark. It's a difficult subject.
Right.
And I think the difficulty comes in with any, conversation that we label as those quote unquote difficult conversations. The difficulty is not those of us who are, putting the message out there. The difficulty and discomfort is often on the people that are hearing it.
Right.
And so I don't have to hear it, or I'm not, and I think in several of the books that we've reviewed, we talk about how, we and the respective authors talk about how sometimes these conversations are done at the for the comfort of the person. I don't want to talk about this, so I'm going to distance myself from it so I don't have to talk about it. The problem becomes not talking about it doesn't make it go away.
No, it doesn't.
And in some cases, it makes the situation worse. Not talking about grief and loss and suicide and whatnot isn't going to change the fact that it's there. Myself and I think other people have been told, you guys talk about this too much. Let it go, let it go. There's some things you just don't let go of.
No.
How you operate, how you function changes over time. The catalyst being the loss is still there. And so, I think for me, I lose patience sometimes with individuals who just completely shut down, don't want to talk, about these, and again, whether it's, suicide, whether it's addiction, whether it's mental health, whether it's, what do you want to do this weekend? Yeah.
Well, and I had mentioned before several times that, when I first started speaking publicly, how when people would find out what I was getting ready to talk about in the room, how the energy in the room changed, and I could actually see the expressions on their face change, and not in, oh, let's talk about this, you could actually feel it. It has gotten better in the last several years, but in the beginning, it was very visible, and you could really feel it. More people now are, I think, a little bit more open to talking or listening than they were 5 years ago. I think everybody going through the pandemic maybe changed some of those.
I think
but there's more. I was at an event or at a meeting Wednesday, and to tell you how this kind of came about. My Rotary, Spring Hill Central Rotary, sent out a thing to the Rotaries about our event, and if you don't believe in the universe working in mysterious ways, it does. So the message got to the president of the Rotary Club of Palm Harbor, Ernest, sweet lady. It came on the day, the 1-year anniversary of her best friend's 16-year-old son's death by suicide. On that anniversary day.
Wow.
And she immediately called me, and Rotary Club of Palm Harbor, immediately they became one of our top sponsors, our Hope sponsor. and she works for South State Bank, and they were our, let's see, we had different sponsor levels, our Da Vinci sponsor. And then, we had the string quartet from Mitchell High School there, and Mr. Drake, the orchestra instructor, super nice guy. When he...
Oh, there's a picture of him right there.
Oh, yeah, that's them. They were so good, and they were such nice kids. When Teresa reached out to him, just 2 weeks prior, one of his best friends took his life. And so he was like, he had to be a part of it. He got the right kids, and yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, I mean, the kids were, the quartet was there. The kids were phenomenal. I mean,
they were really good.
Yeah.
But going back to Palm Harbor, I went down to pick up the check Wednesday, and their guest speakers were from Advent Health, and the subject was mental health and suicide. And so that was interesting, and it was good. And they, people asked questions, and it was a good response. And then she introduced me, and I added a few other things, and I'll be going back to actually speak in front of the organization for the foundation. But it was good.
I got to change gears for half a second here, thinking of Art for Hope. It was nice. It was a wonderful touch having the artists there, having some of the local artists there.
Oh, you got to meet Carol.
And
yeah.
I got to meet Carol, who the Hope Rains Down, the piece that I have that I purchased. I was like, it's going to end up in my house, and it did. And so I was telling her I bought the piece, and she was like, oh, and I was like, I really love it. And I said, but, and I told her, I said, I have a confession to make. And I said, I was telling Tammy, Tammy told me that you were going to be here. And I was like, I wanted to meet you and, tell you the piece is beautiful. It's, my living room walls are, and I think I've said this before, my living room walls are like a seafoam green because my house is nautical themed. And so the blue in this picture, it pops off my wall. I love it. But I told her, I said, I was like, I had Greg, hang it for me. And, I explained to her, who Greg was. I had my boyfriend hang it up for me. And I said, and I'm looking at it, and I was like, there was just something that didn't look right. And I was like, Greg, go turn the picture of, turn the picture of it's upside down. It looks upside down. And so he looks at me and goes, but there's a sawtooth on it. And I'm looking, I was like, I don't care about the sawtooth. Just turn it upside. That's going to bug me. Just please, can you just hang it the other way? So he climbs back on the ladder and he flips it over, and it's hanging. It's hanging out. I was like, okay, feels better. So anyways, I'm explaining this to Carol. She was like, did I put a sawtooth on it? And I said, well, yeah, there was. And so she starts describing the purple in it. She goes, the purple. She goes, that's supposed to be the bottom of the bottom of the picture. Now, I mean, like I said, she was very gracious because I told her, I said, I didn't want to how did I tell? I didn't want to insult you by hanging your picture upside down. And I said, you had, an impression, a vision when you painted the picture. And she was very, very gracious. She looked at me, she goes, you ain't hanging it any way you want to. It's, it was like, yeah, it's up to, like, she paints the piece, it's up to, the individual. And anyway, as we were talking, she made this, she started telling me, she goes, the purple, she goes, like the purple, that's supposed to be at the bottom. That's the bottom of the picture. To which when she said that, I like took a step back and I was like, so I have it hanging right. I have it hanging right after all. So yeah, she inadvertently put the sawtooth on the wrong side of the
oh,
picture.
That's too funny.
But I was like, so there's my picture.
Oh, wow, yeah.
That's upside down.
But that's upside down.
Robert changed that. That's up. Rob, that's upside down. So yeah, but that's how we had displayed the piece, and she was like, no, the purple on the bottom is supposed to be the bottom. It was like and she got a big kick out of that. But the other piece, the one that was the first auction, with the hair,
yeah,
the lady with the hair. I thought it was funny. The auctioneer was like, "And who's going to start this auction off? I got the first bid in at $75." And we're all like, "Dude, if you wanted that, you go right ahead." And so he was like, "And I'm not sure if I'm going to do that again." But yeah, and I mean, and the lady with the hair, it followed that same theme of that one. But anyway, I just had to share that, and then the gift baskets.
Oh, you raked it in.
Oh my God, the gift baskets.
Actually, there was a couple of people. You and somebody else ended up with like 4 or 5 gift baskets.
I think I went in with 3. Well, okay, and, it was what was nice about it. Again, the event. It wasn't all just. It wasn't all just business. So I liked for us that we were able to partake in both sides of the event. There's the aspect of for you, it's the foundation, and you're hosting it, and all the behind the scenes things that put us together, and then there's the table from the foundation, and then you had that's Jennifer, and I can't think of what I remember what her name was, from Ian's Way. And then
you are.
There's me and McCrutch from ASAP. But so it was.
That's Parks and Rec's table.
That's theirs. So anyway, but it was nice to be able to not only, be a part of, attend the event, but also represent, an organization. In this particular case, I was there. I was dual-hatted.
Right, exactly.
ASAP. And I was there on behalf of the foundation. For the show. And but then actually, I was maybe they were going to call me tri-hatted, because I was there as ASAP. I was there for the show. A lady came up to Ian's Way's table. And, she was asking, well, what is Ian's Way? And she was like, and she was talking about the virtual group that we do.
Right.
And so the lady was, the lady that was there, she was like, you do a virtual group? And she goes, it's, the second and fourth Monday of the month. And, Jennifer turns around and she just points to me and she goes, that's my mental health professional right there. And the lady looked at me and I was like, yeah, I got multiple hats on. And I said, yes, no. So, so for me, being there as ASAP, being there for the show, and, which
for Ian's Way,
It's just kind of like I was walking out of the house this morning, I needed a t-shirt, and I was like, let me put my Ian's Way shirt on. And then, like being there to rep Ian's Way. It was really nice. But anyway, we were doing all these raffle baskets, and the raffle baskets were amazingly beautiful.
We always get
they were
great baskets.
They were gorgeous. And so, you buy a bunch of raffles. And what I literally did is I just, walked up and down the table, because if I'm not mistaken, there were probably, I think there were like 27 baskets.
Yeah. There was a lot.
Yeah, there's 27 baskets. So I'm like...
And you get 20 tickets for $20.
Yeah, exactly. And no, actually, it wasn't 20 for it was 25 for 20. It was, yeah, because what I paid for my tickets, I got, more tickets than I did dollars.
However it is.
But
I never know.
So
If the girls were in that.
I think it was 25 for 20 or something like that. But anyway, regardless, I'm going up and down the line, and I was like, oh, this is like a cute basket. So I just strategically put like tickets in each one, and there was a couple of baskets like, oh, because I'm like, okay, I've got some leftover tickets. I'm really not interested in any other baskets. I'll just put one here. I'm not used to winning anything, and I want to say I think the first raffle basket I won, I can't, it was from one of our a mutual friend of ours that's in our Friday focus group.
Mm-hmm.
I won her basket, and I was like, ooh, great, I was like, when she came in, I was like, great, so like I do brand new coffee mugs for my weekend coffee, coffee get together with the neighbors. I drink coffee only on the weekends. The second one I won, I was over the moon. I will wear it next week. The purse. I got the purse.
You got the purse?
I got the purse.
Oh my gosh.
And when it was Margie was calling out the number, so she gets to it. I'm just listening for 108 because that was my number, and she goes 108, and I was like, whoa, whoa. Except I wasn't thinking win multiple baskets, But anyway, and when she picked up what I had just won, it was the purse. I don't know how it heard me, but I was like, I got the purse. I'm like squealing, shoes and purses. I was like, I got the purse. And then, and this is like a designer purse.
Yeah, it's a nice designer purse.
It is, and I guess it's appropriate to tell where it comes from.
I don't even know. I can't remember.
That particular designer designs exclusively for Dillard's.
Oh, really? Oh, well, and you would know that.
And, so for me, it was like, first of all, I love this bag. It's gorgeous.
Kim McCrum, she's a friend of mine. She was in BPW with us for a while. She's the one who donated that.
Oh, well, you tell Kim McCrum.
And I don't know if she still does it, but she had an online, I think she had, it wasn't Etsy. I think she had an Etsy, but then there's another one that was more fashion types.
Poshmark or something like that?
That. She had a store like that. I think she's kind of like retiring now because she's starting to travel a lot, but Kim donated that purse.
No, yeah, I mean, and then like for me, because as I was going up and down, I'm looking at the bag and I was like, that's Dillard's exclusive. That's a Dillard's exclusive, or it's a Dillard's exclusive designer. And so I'm like, so of course for me that brought like special meaning because I used to work for Dillard's.
Right.
Unfortunately, mental health it's like, all right, guys, I can't give you the time, I can't give you the time that it's not fair for me to have to constantly leave because I had, our store manager's like, Bonnie's leaving us. And he was like, she's going to go do her real job. Like, I don't understand why she works for us, And I was like, because I used to tell him, doing retail in the evening was how I got my sanity back.
Right.
Anyway. But yeah, like I said, the event was over the. I mean, it was.
I was very pleased with it, and we've actually already started planning for next year.
Nice.
So we're going to have a wrap-up meeting here in a couple weeks, and take a couple months off for the holidays and the other events that we have coming up, and we're going to start right back on in January. So.
Yeah, we call those after, when in the military, we call them after action reports. What did we do right? What went right? What went, and I hate to look at things in terms of what went wrong, but what went right? What didn't go so right? What can we do differently for next year? In ASAP, they're referred to, with roses and thorns.
Okay.
So, what was the rosy part of it? What was the thorny part of the event? Speaking of ASAP, that very next day, we had the Stronger Together Recovery Walk. And, The thing with this particular walk, again, we do it every year. It's to, celebrate and highlight, people in, the recovery community, which, you know, a lot of people, some people look at people who have suffered with addiction. They kind of look down on them. It's like, oh, basically the old adage used to be a long time ago: once an addict, always an addict. And it's like, guys, don't do that. And so the whole theme of the walk, was basically, we do and can recover. And so on this, with this particular event, for us, we do the same thing. We, the event gets planned. We develop the planning committee. It takes months and months and months of coordinating and planning and whatnot, and then the event goes on. We sit back, take a breath for a moment, do our rose and thorn meetings, and then we start planning for next year. Well, for me and this planning committee, and like I said, I've done this recovery walk. This was our second annual one. I'm always in charge of the T-shirts. Just in charge of T-shirts. And, so we, always purchase enough T-shirts to give, participants a free, like the first, X number. In this case, I think we did 200. First 200, participant shows up, gets a free T-shirt. And, I looked at it, it was nice because from last year when we did it, it was 150. But the other thing that was of concern was the weather. It's like, it's going to rain. Is it going to rain? And, so people were like, do we have a rain date? And we never, in the past, we hadn't, ever considered doing a rain date. It's like, we're going to do this walk, rain or shine. And I think, going forward, because somebody had made a comment, there needs to be a suggestion of an alternate location or a rain date. So, again, we were at Sims Park, in Newport Richie, which is, for this type of event, the best venue, to do it at. And I know I got out, to the park. It was like 1-ish or so. And, so we can, set up and whatnot, start getting vendors in it too. Fire marshal has to come through and do, his walkthrough and whatnot, make sure everything is, up to code. In the, towards the middle of the walk, I think it is, the skies opened and it started raining. We're like, oh my God, what's going to do? And it didn't deter the walk. I mean, I found out later on, how much we raised on that, for that event. And I'm like, you're joking. Like, if my ears were working, $13,000.
Are you kidding?
13.
Wow.
I mean, and this is through, because when you think of, like I said, I'm going to focus on the T-shirts for a moment. It is, come get a T-shirt, represent. And so, they've got their T-shirts and whatnot. But many people are like, are you taking donations? We're not going to say no to money.
No.
You name me a nonprofit that's going to say, no, I don't want your money.
Yeah.
So we're like, you want to, well, what do you want to donate? And I was like, whatever you want to give. And, people, here's, this much for the T-shirt. Here's that much for the T-shirt. And, some people just like, I don't want a T-shirt, but here's a donation.
Right.
And then, like at Art for Hope, we had a raffle as well. And so between the T-shirts, the raffle, and of course we had some of the vendors, or companies that bought the little push signs, for their respective businesses. And so, between the push signs, just random donations for T-shirts, raffle basket, and whatnot, it was like, whew, I got to Sims Park at 1 o'clock that afternoon. I did not leave Sims Park until it was about 9:30 that evening.
Wow.
Well, because you figure the event ended
Right.
at 8. And then, of course, we had to stay and do cleanup and whatnot. But a lot of people, had made that, like, brought up the rain, had made that same comment. it is amazing how, depending upon the event, even the weather does not deter the event. On our event, the Art for Hope. I know it was raining when I pulled up to the hotel. It did not stop the event. And people were like, but you were inside. Granted, you were inside, but you had, as I was watching the pieces of art come in, and I was like, well, these people, covered up in plastic wrap.
Oh yeah, I was loading up my truck earlier in the day in the rain because I had to. Otherwise, it wasn't going to get there. And and there was so much rain. There was so much flooding all around town. And the day of our event, then and I heard during the event they had tornado warnings on both the east and the west side of the county, and we had people coming from the east side of the county, and I was just like, oh man, please.
Well, it was interesting, when you talk about flooding, the next day when I was at the walk, one of my coworkers, she lives out in Tarpon, and she was she had pictures, the kind of day before, and she's like showing. Actually, that morning we were in the office, and she's like showing this picture, and it was like her streets around her were flooded, and she was like, "This is what's in my neighborhood right now," and I'm like, "Wow, are you going to be able to get home?" And she's like, "Yeah." She goes, "Oh no, we're used to this, but this is what's around my neighborhood." So again, so looking at even flooding did not stop either event. But I was talking about another event that I went to this past Saturday. On the Thursday meeting, one of the community partners, Tony Williams, Ellsworth Williams, who, as a matter of fact, I think, wasn't Tony a guest on our show, Veterans Council of Veterans?
Yeah.
So we did have Tony on the show. So Tony had sent me an email, a few days ago, and he was like, "Hey," he captioned the email "fellow veteran," and so I was thinking it was going to be something veteran related. Well, it kind of sort of was, but he was like, "Bonnie, I want to introduce you to," her name is Latanya. I want to introduce you to Latanya. She started a nonprofit that's called 18 Forever, and this nonprofit was started as the result of her niece, who was 18, who died by suicide. And so her particular organization, while also addressing and talking about suicide, it specifically addresses suicide in Black and brown communities and among minority populations, because unfortunately the belief is that there's not enough focus on minority suicides and the alarming rates in which those particular populations are affected by it. And I'll send you pictures for next week. The way the event was set up, it was absolutely beautiful. And so, so Tony did the introduction to her. So then I reached out to her, hey, my name is Bonnie, and, suicide prevention, this is kind of what I do and whatnot. And, she's like, oh, pleased to meet you. So anyway, I go to Tampa to this event. It was, they did it kind of like a panel discussion, where, different people were talking about their respective experiences and whatnot. And afterwards, people, that were in the audience, they had the ability to, ask, questions, questions or comments to the panel. There was this one woman on the panel who, she had lost her daughter. She lost her daughter to suicide. It was, here recently. But I just remember, raising my hand, just going to, give a shout out to her, hey, I feel your pain, powerful story you had there, and then, address, talk about, stigma and whatnot. Well, I put my hand up. And, Latoya, she looked at me and she goes, "You want to come up here?" And I'm looking at her like, "What? No, do you want to come up? Yeah, no, you need to come. I come on up here." So I come up here, and don't know what she was, telling me. Is come to the podium.
Right.
So I was like, "Okay, well, if you want me to come to the podium, I'll come to the podium." And as I was walking up, and mind I was on crutches this weekend. I use the crutch, don't use the crutch. More often times I don't. But anyway, it's on my crutches this weekend because my knees were not being, my knee was not being pleasant with me. But as I'm walking up, she's on the mic and she's like, "This is Bonni," and she goes, "We literally just met 2 days ago via email. Today, it was 4 days ago via email. Today is the first day that we're meeting like in person." And she goes, "But she has a powerful story, and whatnot." And, so I was, honored that she, walked me up, and I was like, so I told her, as I shared with them, it's like, hey, I'm a mental health professional, and, this is, a difficult subject, and, this was my first time coming to this. I think this was was it their second or third annual? It might have been their second annual as well, but I was like, I'm really honored to be here. And to get the invite, especially to talk about this topic. And, as I shared, about Aiden, I shared about, Patrick, and what I looked at, the woman who had shared, who was on the panel was talking about her daughter. And I was like, "Oh, man," and I was like, "I'm sorry, I don't remember your name." I didn't. And I was like, I applaud, your strength to be able to tell your daughter's story. And I don't remember it, mind you, except for, I think she said her daughter left and actually went somewhere where her daughter knew no one can get to her. And, so of course it's like, I couldn't get to her, and she did this purposely. And then there was another young man who, he had contemplated, he was like, "I'm Haitian and I'm gay." And when he came out, and disclosed that he was gay, he was like, "I got kicked out of the family," so of course that, he was, and attempted. It was, like I said, it was amazing discussion. But I think with the group is, the organization, is 18 Forever, and I'm thinking, she would be, if she's able and willing. An awesome, person for us to, send an invitation out and invite her onto the show. Because again, while I was there, as I was talking about it, and then, said the same thing at, at Art for Hope. We have these nonprofits all over. And granted, each nonprofit is focused on, their little piece of the pie. At the same time as nonprofits go, we also like to focus on, kind of, bring together and have those circles kind of blend in so that we are covering, the whole broad spectrum of this epidemic, called suicide.
Well, and that's what, our organization has really been trying to focus
Yes.
on with other organizations in our community, because not a one of us is going to be able
No.
to make it better. It's going to take all of us. And
Exactly.
I have preached that for the last several years, and and we have, organizations like Ian's Way and NAMI, and, we work together. We know what each other does. And so if somebody comes to us and, and shares with us what is happening, then we know better. If it's not what we're best at, we got another organization that is.
And what I like about that, because like when I was, there at that event, and to, kind of strike the balance with this, if you think about, back to what you said, the whole purpose, when you started this foundation, and especially like the purple folder, and it's like, okay, so, again, if I'm looking at, for instance, 18 Forever, Would 18 Forever necessarily know Bobby White Foundation? No. At the same time, they may say, okay, you know what, let me have some purple folders. Because that's part
Right.
of this mission, or I don't want to say it's its main mission, but that's part of its mission to get these resources out.
Exactly.
But at the same time, it's like, oh, now what is the possibility of adding that resource in there, into the folder?
Right. Well, and it's like Ian's Way is in our folder, and NAMI's in our folder, and that's what we really try to focus on doing as much as we can. We're getting really down to the wire again, and before we start doing our stuff that we need to do, I want to thank our sponsors that we had for Art for Hope. We had awesome sponsors. Our Hope presenting sponsors, of course, 9 Round, Area 52 Media Group, and Rotary Club of Palm Harbor, the Hilton, our Da Vinci sponsors, South State, State Farm, Deborah Diaz, Precision Surveying and Mapping. That happens to be the company that Bobby worked for. Our Dolly sponsor, No Naked Walls. It was funny when I was introducing them. I was like, somebody was like, "Why do you invite your competition to this?" It's like we don't compete with each other. They do custom framing and art. I do custom framing and art. But I do things that they don't do or don't want to do, and they do things that I don't do or I don't want to do, and we actually work very well together and have a great relationship. And then, of course, our Picasso sponsors, we had a bunch of those: Pasco Camera, Dr. Nino's, Slice of Life Pizza, Duran Bremen Farrell, Suncoast Wind, which is a networking organization I'm a member of, and Rooters. Our dessert sponsor, of course, Leanne's Cookies. Her cookies are always really super good. And our photo sponsor, we had the photo booth. That was a fun thing. Eric was so great with that.
I have your strip. I have your photo strip too.
Yeah. So we're going to get a bunch of these there's going to be pictures from the event. I had so many of them, and when I was trying to get ready for the show, I'm like, I got too many pictures. I can't send all these to Rob. So pictures from the event will be on all the Facebook pages. I'm starting to collect some of I got a strip of photos, so we're going to collect some of the photos from people and put those up, because that was a lot of fun. Eric had this little thing where you can spin, and it'd give you suggestions on what kind of pose to do. And
what was one of ours? Dab. Let's dab. We had dab.
Oh, yeah. And I didn't even know how to do that.
My grandchildren were like, Nana, don't ever do that again. Or whatever.
That was fun.
That was fun.
But it was a lot of fun, and I want to thank Eric for stepping up and doing that. I think everybody had a good time with the photo booth. So
what's our quote for today?
Oh, our quote for today. I know I sent it to. It's a good one. I grieve, but I am grateful.
What does it say? Even in the midst of pain, I can find blessings. I like that.
I thought it was really pretty good, especially the timing with the events. And even as difficult as some things were leading up to it, my committee was just so awesome. I had taken a truckload of stuff down to the event, unloading stuff, and I realized that I had left half a dozen baskets at home. So I had one volunteer there, and I was like, okay, can you do this and this? I got to run home. It's going to take me at least a half an hour. And I said, if the other volunteers come, they pretty much know what to do. I tell you what, by the time I got back with the rest of the stuff, and the guys came out, they were there, helped unload the large artwork. Pretty much everything was set up. We just had a bunch of little stuff to do. They just did, really awesome. So I'm grateful for just everybody and everything.
Oh yeah, it was fun. I was like, let me navigate this on a crutch. How do I do this? But it was like, you know what? Let me just sit this over. So I could do this. But no, it was it was an amazing event, and definitely, I mean, the Hilton Cardinals, they did their thing.
They love having us there, and we love having the event there. It's, kind of centrally located so that pretty much anybody from the Tampa Bay area, it's easy to get to.
It is.
So we want to put up our Lifeline numbers. Remember the new number that came out in July, 988. That is a call or text number. It's kind of like 911, but 988. Just makes it a lot easier for people, but it is a call or text number.
And those numbers, those numbers do work. You get a live person on the other side of the phone. And, I'm not ashamed to admit I've used the Veterans Crisis Line myself. And, for me, it was, I mean, I could literally say in one case years ago, it was literally a lifesaver. But, they do work. The people who answer the phones are amazing. Please, 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 use them.
Use them. And if you don't have the short number, keep the 800 number put the numbers in your phone. Just put them in your phone.
Exactly.
All of them.
Best place to
so
do it.
that you have it. So maybe next week we'll get back to finishing up our book. And
we knew we weren't doing the book today.
No, but we both brought it anyway.
Because we always have the book. But
yeah, we always have the book. So we'll get back to finishing up how to carry what can't be fixed. But just remember, there's always hope. Thanks for joining us.
Have a good week.